Welcome to the Being Rare podcast. I am your host, Sarita Edwards. Being Rare is an online resource hub and community conversations platform. We'll talk about living with rare diseases, medical complexities, disability, and special health needs. From time to time, we'll have some amazing guests to help navigate the conversation. Stay up to date on current episodes by subscribing to Being Rare wherever you listen to your podcast. Hi guys, welcome to a special Mother's Day edition of the Being Rare podcast. Today we're talking to Kate Hart, Trisomy 18 mom and advocate. Kate, welcome to the Being Rare podcast.
Thank you, Sarita. It's lovely to be with you.
Awesome. So to kick things off, to just really start the conversation, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself. Tell us about you and your family and how you guys got started on a Trisomy 18 journey.
Sure. So I'm Kate, wife of Colin, mother to Nathan, who is 4 years old now, and to baby Hannah, who's gone to be with Jesus. We found out at our sort of 12-week scan during pregnancy that there was potentially a problem with the pregnancy. And then through further testing and diagnostics, we eventually got the diagnosis that Hannah had Edwards syndrome or trisomy 18. It was a really challenging time. That diagnosis felt very isolating for a number of reasons. It was during the COVID pandemic. So I was on my own when I got that diagnosis. And then I should have also mentioned that my family and I, we live in the UK at the moment, but as you could probably tell from my lovely strong accent, my husband and I are from South Africa originally. So we don't have any immediate family here. Our family's all still back home in South Africa. So we went through all that initial uncertainty and turmoil on our own, which was really, really tough. In a nutshell, Hannah was born just short of 40 weeks. I delivered her by C-section. And she lived for 54 days, so just short of 2 months. And she did pass away peacefully at home with us. We were very fortunate that that's how we would have, obviously we would have chosen for her not to have passed away, but, we knew sort of the writing was on the wall with her diagnosis. So that's always what we wanted. We wanted to be at home with her. And so we were very fortunate that it turned out like that. And she really did slip away very peacefully in the end.
Yeah. So you made it to right at the 40 weeks. Did you go into just natural childbirth, or did you have to be induced or anything?
No, we elected to have a C-section in the end.
Okay.
So it was, to be honest, that whole question of how I was going to deliver her was quite a big talking point between Colin and I during the pregnancy. At the start, I was quite pro trying for a natural birth. My son Nathan was delivered by emergency C-section, so that was quite a stressful situation, and I had really hoped to be able to try for a natural labor following that. And they do allow you to try here in the UK after you've had a C-section. They call it a VBAC, vaginal birth after cesarean. But my husband was really not keen for me to go for that option. He felt it was more risky, and given Hannah's, she was really small. She was on I can't remember, under the 9th percentile, so she's really little. And just with all her conditions, she had 1 or 2 heart conditions amongst all the other trisomy markers. So he was just really nervous that it would put her under undue stress to be, to go through a natural labor. And I suppose for him as well, our labor with our son was very stressful because, anyway, long story short, but yeah, he really struggled watching me go through a difficult labor and then it ending in an emergency. So, but by the time it came close to us, by the time it was closer to Hannah's due date, I basically chickened out and felt the same way as him and just thought, I love her so much and I want so badly to meet her that I'm not actually willing to take any risks that could jeopardize us meeting her live. Yeah. So about probably 3 or 4 weeks before her date, we changed our minds and chose to book a date and book in her birth. So it was the right decision 100% in the end. It just took it was quite a journey to get to that point.
Yeah. And I think that's why I wanted to ask. I know, like with what the oldest is Colin?
Nathan.
Colin is your husband. Okay.
Yes.
So like with Nathan, that's what I was curious about. I know sometimes we get so far into it and we're not able to naturally give birth. So cesarean is an option. So I was curious if you actually made it to that point, but you guys just elected to have the C-section. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. I totally get that.
Yeah, it was, there were a lot of considerations because having already had a C-section, I knew it affects your mobility. And one of the big things for me was being handed the baby after you've, they've been born, and they come and lie on your chest and you can't properly hold them or cuddle them. I just found that so awkward with Nathan. In the end, I remember just saying to Colin, please take him, because he didn't feel very safe and secure in my chest. As it happened, Hannah was half the size of her brother, so her on my chest wasn't a problem. She was so tiny and she fitted quite easily there. It was just about adjusting one's mindset to what are you expecting from this birth and how's it going to go. But the pros certainly outweighed the cons. The pro of meeting her live was worth it for us 100%. So
right. That's right. So you got you got your diagnosis at a scan, just a prenatal scan. How was that journey for you? Like when you first got that diagnosis and you found yourself trying to understand what this is. Had you ever heard of Edwards syndrome or trisomy 18? Did you what was that moment like for you guys? And you were there were you at that appointment by yourself?
I was there on my own. So to sort of backtrack a little bit, we had sadly lost a pregnancy in the December before. So I'd had a miscarriage at 10 weeks. And then we were very lucky to get pregnant with Hannah 3 months later. So this was March 2020. We got pregnant with Hannah. So it was at the 12 or 13 weeks that I got an appointment to have the dating scan, as they call it in the UK. But unfortunately I had to attend on my own. And anyway, we didn't have childcare for Nathan. Colin had to stay, was in the middle of the lockdown and pandemic and the whole thing. Right. But I was already nervous. I was already tearful in the waiting room before I had the scan, thinking, is there going to be a heartbeat? Are we going to go through what we've just been through? And then the scan started and there was a heartbeat, and I started crying with tears of joy. Until I noticed that the sonographer was taking quite a bit longer with certain measurements, and she was not saying anything. So I started feeling a sense of dread coming on. And when I tried to ask her, or when she sort of started to talk about what she'd found, she wouldn't really be too specific, and she just said she needed a second opinion. And anyway, I can't remember the specifics, but I was whisked away to a secondary room and kind of just given a bit of privacy while they waited for somebody else to come talk to me. And they started with the screening bloods. And one of the questions is, have you previously had a child with trisomy 13 or trisomy 18? And I knew I hadn't, because I'd never heard of those things. I should have known what those things were, because I was screened for them when when I was pregnant with Nathan. But I suppose it's one of those things that you just assume it's not going to happen to you. Right. Same as miscarriage. When the miscarriage happened, I was so shocked. I was like, but this happens to other people. And the same thing with trisomy 13 and 18. I had a meeting booked with a consultant straight after, just because I'd previously had a C-section. And even she was hesitant to say too much. When she said it could be something like Down syndrome, I kind of was with her. And then when she was talking about Edwards and Patau's, she completely lost me. But it was so tough, because then I'm at the hospital. I know something that my husband doesn't know. At what point do I tell him? Do I tell him before I drive home? Do I call him from the hospital? Or do I keep quiet and drive home and tell him face to face? That decision on its own, and that phone call was just so awful. So I ended up calling him from the hospital, and by the time I got home, he Googled everything, which is obviously the worst thing to ever do. But yeah, we're really lucky that we got a follow-up appointment the following day at a fetal medicine department at a bigger regional hospital nearby. But again, I had to attend that on my own. It was just really a repeat of the first scan, more detailed look at measurements. So Hannah's nuchal fold, I think it is NT measurement at the back of her neck, was double what it should have been. And she was surrounded by fluid, which shouldn't have been there. And yeah, it was really tough to go to an appointment where I had so many questions, I had so many emotions, so nervous. And yet we come out of the appointment and then, bless him, Colin's like, did you ask this? And what did they say about that? And I'm like, I can't remember. It was just so much information and so much terminology. And, you know, like maybe I asked that question, but I can't remember the answer. Maybe they answered it. I can't remember the answer. So, yeah, so stressful. I mean, the staff were very, very kind and understanding, but yeah, it was really tough. At that point, they offered me a CVS, you know, which is more diagnostic. But I think I had to wait a few days for that. And then again, I had to attend that appointment on my own. It's quite I want to say invasive. They're putting a needle through your abdomen, quite stressful. And unfortunately, they didn't get a large enough sample. So instead of getting the rapid results in 2 to 3 days, we had to wait the full sort of 7 to 10 days, which was quite excruciating. However, in the interim, we got a call back about our blood results, and that was showing a 1 in 3 chance of Edwards or Patau's. So we kind of knew that she has something. Oh, well, and at that point, I think, no, it was when we got the CVS results, they confirmed that she was a little girl, because they'd obviously been looking at the chromosomes. That was quite heartbreaking in itself, you know, to find out that we were expecting a girl. It was just like, somehow it made the news almost harder to take somehow. I don't know why. But yeah, from that point, the scans that we would go to, or the appointments, would work like this. I would attend the scan. They would, you know, the consultant would do a very detailed look at everything going on with Hannah. And then they gave special permission to Colin to sort of come in a back door and would sit in a meeting room, all with our face masks on and all covered up. And they would discuss the results with the two of us. So that was at least a bit better, because then there were two of us in the room, both hearing the answers. We could both think of questions to ask as they came up. But yeah, it was a really, really, really tough time.
Yeah. And so to get the diagnosis when you did, from that time until it was time for the C-section, like how are you processing all of it? You know, how did you have a support system? And I know you've already said you didn't have family there. So, you know, how did you try to hold it all together? That's a lot with, to get this diagnosis as early as you did, but then go to term, you know, almost 40 weeks. What was that like for you?
Yeah, and also we had at the time, a 2-year-old son who, you know, still needed love, care, and attention. So part of me wanted to just go to bed and just check out of the situation, but I didn't have that choice. So
we hope you're enjoying today's conversation. We'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. Edwards syndrome, commonly known as Trisomy 18, is a rare chromosome abnormality. The ewefoundation is a 501c3 healthcare advocacy organization created to support families living with Edwards syndrome. The ewefoundation offers health literacy and community resources, comfort care, and financial support. Information at ewefoundation.org. And now back to today's conversation.
How did we get through that time? Well, interestingly as well, Colin and I managed those first few weeks quite differently as well. He came to the point of acceptance quite a lot faster than me. And he was then researching it a bit more, and he was reading family stories, and he was trying to encourage me to do the same. And I was just not in that place. I just was not ready. I couldn't really, I was still taking my time, and I didn't want to be bombarded with information and stories. I even remember going to the first midwife appointment following the diagnosis, and one of the things she did was to check for the heartbeats. And it sounds awful, and it feels awful to say that now, having met and loved Hannah. But when she found the heartbeats, I actually was quite numb about it. I wasn't sad, but I wasn't joyful either. And I remember the midwife being like, "Oh, so excited," and smiling. And I just felt like I'm just not there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're very fortunate that we have a very close knit group of friends here, which we've made through having our son. You know, we really knew no one close by when we first moved here, but then having Nathan helped us to get a community of young families like ourselves. So they really drew together, and again, as much as they could during the pandemic. We weren't, visiting at homes and stuff, which sometimes you just want your friend to come over and have a cup of tea on the couch and have a good chat and a good cry. Or I just was desperate for a hug, so desperate for somebody to just give me a hug and say it's going to be okay. But yeah, we also have a really good church sort of community, and once we were ready to share the news, because we actually only told people beyond immediate family and close friends after the 20-week point. Because we also didn't really know what to say, and we didn't know how things were going to go. And I suppose also emotionally, we weren't ready to share yet. Because I suppose also with sharing comes a lot of questions, and we weren't in that space. So
it makes it so real when you start sharing. It makes it real. Yeah.
Yeah, that too, I suppose. So, but when we were in a better place to share the news, we kind of drafted a long email filling everyone in on the details. And we did say that we were going to celebrate every part of the pregnancy, that we already loved Hannah, that we'd named her, and we were going to just enjoy every minute that we got with her, whether it was just during the pregnancy or any time we were lucky to have with her after she was born. And we said, it's not a secret. You're welcome to tell people, share our news. Maybe we haven't included someone on this email, like tell people, like, no problem. We've got nothing to hide. And this is our story. And we also said, don't be afraid to talk to us about her. Don't be afraid to ask us stuff. And also, we don't not want to hear about your news in your life. So maybe don't feel like you can't tell us something good that's going on in your life. Don't be afraid to share, your stuff as well. It's just because we're going through this doesn't mean the rest of the world has to stop. So we just really try to tell people how to react to the news. In that we're open to talking about this. It is tough, but we're trying to take a positive approach and just celebrate every moment with her. And some people responded really well to that and took their cue from that and were really supportive. And we just so appreciated when people would talk to us about it and ask questions and try and understand, So yeah, we got support from our church, support from our friends and family. And then we got put in touch with, I can't remember at what point, but a local children's hospice called Rainbows. And we got put in touch with a family support person who became like a lifeline. This lady called Natalie, who would initially call. I remember the first phone call I had with her, just talking to her made everything feel a lot better. Like they would have our back and they would help us through no matter what happened with Hannah, whether she passed away during pregnancy or thereafter. And I remember her saying that the support was for the whole family and that their support never expires. That it doesn't matter if, it's a year or 2 years or 10 years down the line, they'll always be there for us. And, so far that is 100%. That's been our experience. They have been so incredibly supportive. So yeah, I think that probably sums up the other support from the get-go that we got as we were first sort of pointed in the direction of this could be Trisomy 13 or 18, was an organization here called Soft UK. And that's where I was referring to Colin looking for family stories. They provided a lot of information in the form of family stories, and they also offered like support calls, like Zoom support calls for other families expecting babies with the same condition. So we found joining those calls very useful, very scary at times. I remember being on a call with a parent who we later found out through one of the Facebook groups had a stillborn baby, and you kind of feel like you get to know these people, and then their pain becomes your pain, and it just makes it all the more real and more scary. So yeah, we had all sorts of support, and we really did have a good team of support in the form of the hospice and professionals from that point of view.
Right. I think it's a really good perspective. Something you said, when you decided to send the email, I think it's really, really brave to share the story and the journey. But then to also say, just because we're going through this doesn't mean you have to stop sharing good things that you're going through, celebrations that you're having, great things with your own kids. Because I do believe a lot of times, when you're on a journey that's different from a lot of the people around you, I do think sometimes they feel like you don't want to hear the happy things that they have going on. So I think that's really commendable. I think that's really, really brave to say out loud to them that we still welcome all the good things you have going on. I think that's huge. That's really, really great.
It was also partly selfish because we didn't want people to sort of be scared of us, feel like, they're going through this awful thing and we can't talk to them. And how do we, what do we say? And so we were kind of trying to just be like, we're still us.
Right.
You can still, we're just going through a tough time, but like we still are interested in you and what you've got to say. So please don't avoid us, and don't cross the road if you see us in town, like. Right.
And that's it, because you do feel that way. You feel like people will avoid you because either they don't know what to say or because they feel like you don't want to hear what they have to say. So, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's just being really proactive to just include that in the email. So I think it's great that they felt, the ones who did, I think it's great that they felt comfortable still reaching out. I think that was one of the questions that I was going to ask. I think you kind of hit on it though. I was just curious, how did people respond? What type of questions did they ask? What did they want to know? Aside from, how are you guys? And
that was the main thing.
Like, did anybody want to know anything specifically about the diagnosis? Did people go look it up themselves and come back and say different things that they found? Like, what was that? What was that like?
Yeah, one of the things we put in the email was a link to SOFT's website where it describes trisomy 18 in quite a lot of detail. And we just also said there, here's some more information if you'd like it, but also we're not going to quiz you if we speak to you. So if you choose not to read it, so be it. But if you are interested, here's the information. I'd say the majority of people didn't discuss the nitty-gritty with us. But there were some people who were more forthcoming about their questions, and I can't remember the specifics, but yeah, they did get into more detailed questions with us, which they'd sort of start asking then kind of almost apologizing. And we would say, no, it's so helpful for us to talk about this stuff, especially when we're still expecting Hannah, because, we just found talking so therapeutic, and it still is now. That's why I was so excited to do this podcast. And Hannah's not here, so all I get to do is talk about her. That's the only thing I have left now besides the memories, So, yeah, majority of people were just checking on how we were and how the pregnancy was going. And as it so happened, it was such an easy pregnancy. Like, for me, the only tough thing was the emotional side of it, not the physical. Another interesting thing that happened, I don't know if it just shows it's psychological, but I'd been feeling a bit nauseous and not quite right. But at that 12-week scan, when they started pointing to things not being right, boy, did I start to feel better. Like, it was the last thing on my mind, how I'd been feeling nauseous and tired and stuff, suddenly just all cleared up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really had an easy pregnancy. So that was a nice thing. At least when people checked in on me, I could say, I'm great, I'm fine. It was I think because as well, she wasn't as big as Nathan was. I didn't get as heavy and as uncomfortable, and I didn't struggle with sleeping as much. So at least that was one, blessing in disguise, that I didn't have to struggle physically through the whole thing.
Yeah. So Nathan was 2 at the time, or 2.5.
He turned 3 when just a few weeks after Hannah was born. So he was.
So that's a really young age to not really know what's going on. What was that journey like? To be a big brother expecting.
Yeah, Sarita, that was also one of our hugest stresses, was how do we talk to Nathan about this, and how do we prepare him for this, and how, also by the time Hannah was due, there was another lockdown, and we were worried, what support will we get if we're in hospital? Who's going to look after Nathan? What are the rules going to be? Fortunately, my parents managed to come out from South Africa and stay with us. So, but I only believed it when I saw them on UK soil. There were so many things up in the air and so many things that I was scared that may go wrong. It was only when they were here I could really believe it and breathe that sigh of relief, like, okay, if we need to be in hospital for longer or whatever, he will be taken care of, just from a purely like logistical point of view. So I'm going to digress and come back to your question in a sec. But what was really fantastic was the hospital did make sure that Nathan would get to meet Hannah. So although there were such strict visiting rules, I mean, most mums wouldn't be allowed to have their partner at the hospital. Again, Colin was snuck in. We had a private room, and they basically said, right, you don't leave this room for any reason. We will bring meals. You've got an ensuite bathroom, like, just stay hidden. And then Hannah was born on the Friday afternoon, and then on the Saturday morning, Nathan came to meet her. And they said the same thing: carry him in, put him straight in the room, shut the door, and then carry him out. Like, you can't be wandering around and touching things and people can't see him. So just let him meet her. But that we found was so special. And they said no matter what level lockdown we're under, or no matter what's going on in the world, Hannah will be able to meet her big brother. So that was really awesome. But yeah, Nathan understood what it meant that he was going to be a big brother, that mommy had a baby in her tummy and stuff, because quite a few of his little friends had siblings by then. So he'd seen little babies, and we could refer to, other friends who'd had siblings. So he kind of got the concept. I think naming her helped a lot with him to bond and us to be able to talk to him about her. And in the very beginning, we did sort of touch on the fact that Hannah wasn't well, and that she's got something wrong with her heart. And it was so hard. So in the end, we just stopped talking about that stuff, and we just helped him to get excited about the idea of a little sister. With the help of Rainbow's Hospice, we did learn to speak matter-of-factly to him, and be honest in a way that he'll understand. But it was so tough at that age. So I mean, even he didn't have any questions when she was born, because to him she was just beautiful, and he just loved her. He sister, and he didn't ask anything. I mean, she was beautiful. She was. She was little, and she had a little clenched fists, and she had some of the Edwards features, but none of that stuff mattered to him. It was more when she passed away, or towards the last few weeks when she wasn't well. And I remember him saying, for example, but mommy, why can't the doctors fix her? Well, how do you explain that? And then when she passed away as well, to try and get him to understand that she's just not coming back, to say, well, she's died. You have to, they suggest you speak quite plainly. You don't talk about passing away or stuff. You've got to say she died, she's dead. And then, but he was like, okay, but when's she coming back?
Right.
And it took him, I'd say, a good 2 to 3 weeks to understand she just was not coming back. So yeah, we just always try and answer his questions as honestly as possible. And we had a few books that we tried to help prepare him, but again, we didn't know what it was going to be. You know, we didn't know how well she was going to be or how she was going to suffer or struggle. So how can you prepare him if you don't know how to prepare yourself?
That's right. Yeah.
So in a way, it's almost been easier since she passed away to talk about it because we know what it is, you know. And to be honest, he's really handled it quite well, you know. And we talk about it all the time. And he asks loads of questions, sometimes at the most like unexpected moments. And some of his questions we can't answer just because they are a bit arbitrary or abstract, or, you know, we just don't know the answer, and we'll tell him, we'll just say we don't know the answer to that or whatever. And even like to tell him that she's gone to heaven and that he'll meet her one day, like that's also, he's like, okay, but when can we go to heaven? Can we go? You know, place. I think he's starting to get the idea now that it's not a physical place, but like even when I say to him, Hannah will always be your sister, he also struggles with that. He's like, but she's gone, you know. It's like, right. But you'll always have a baby sister called Hannah, and I'll always have a daughter called Hannah, just because she's not here. And I'm really sorry if you can hear the noise upstairs. That's bedtime going on, and I don't know what the banging is for.
No, listen, you are totally fine. I know we have a huge time difference, so it's totally fine. Okay. Totally fine.
Sounds like they're playing drums upstairs or something, which I don't think they are.
No, it's totally good. Totally good. That's really, really sweet and hard all at the same time.
Yeah, it really. Like I said, I think it was one of the biggest things we were worried about is how he would handle it and how to prepare him. And there's just no way. There's just no way to prepare him. But we just made sure that we included him in as much stuff to do with Hannah as possible. Whenever he showed an interest in cuddling her and holding her, like as fragile and tiny as she was, we just let him. And if he wanted to help feed her, go for it. And, you know, I remember one day my dad was helping to feed her, and there was Nathan telling Grandpa, no, Grandpa, you've got to do it like this. And, you know, it was such a special moment, you know, like him coaching Grandpa on how to feed baby Hannah.
Yes.
So, yeah, and we just soaked it up, and we took as many photos and videos of the two of them together. And we were really lucky to have one Christmas together as a family of 4, which was so special. And then Nathan turned 3 and Hannah was with us. So that was also very special. So, yeah.
So how long after she was born, how much hospital time did she have? Like, were you able to just discharge and bring her right home with you?
We didn't come straight home, but she spent less than 24 hours in hospital. We'd arranged, well, we hadn't really agreed. We kind of were like, we'll decide when she's born and what condition she's in. So we actually went straight to hospice. And we spent 6 nights there. But Hannah was born really strong. I mean, she came out screaming her lungs out, which we were like so relieved to hear. It was just the best sound. And she didn't need any oxygen. She didn't need any feeding tubes. She never did. She was bottle fed the whole time, you know, which was really special. It was a learning curve for us, I must admit. I know it sounds weird, but because I breastfed Nathan, and also it's also because she was so tiny, and she did have some sort of coordination issues with the suck, swallow, breathe. You know, she, I suppose she just struggled a little bit more than a typical baby would with feeding. But yeah, so we really went to Rainbow's Hospice for us, to be honest, to get our confidence up, to just learn what to look for. You know, I suppose we were anticipating probably the worst and expecting her to maybe have apnea attacks and things like that. But she was just fine. She was great. And again, like I was the one who ended up needing a bit of help because I ended up developing, is it mastitis? Yeah. So blocked milk ducts and things like that from expressing milk, and, you know, so I ended up on some antibiotics, but Hannah was great. So it was just so lovely to be at the hospice because, again, Nathan could join us and my parents joined us. So all that quality time, when there's, trained experts around, not only like medical professionals, but the most caring, amazing, angelic people. I just found like whenever they looked at Hannah, they really saw her beauty. Like they weren't seeing Edward's baby. They could see how beautiful she was, just the way we could. And so it was just so nice to just have like our meals cooked for us and our washing done, and like some help to entertain Nathan. We also got to make fantastic memories there, and Hannah and Nathan and Colin had a lovely swim in the hydro pool, and we took photos and videos. Wow. They painted each other's, Nathan painted Hannah's feet and we painted Nathan's feet, so we got a lot of footprint memories, and there were a few things that we did at the hospice which were really special. So it was more about, I suppose, memory making and just, like I say, gaining our confidence about how to care for this baby with special needs. But actually at that stage she didn't really have special needs. Really, once we got up to scratch with the feeding, they discharged us with some oxygen, and that stayed at the top of our cupboard in our bedroom for, I'd say, 5 out of her 7 weeks of life, which was also so great. Yeah, it was just like whenever the community nursing team would phone me to check on Hannah, they'd be like, is she on any pain meds? No. Is she on any oxygen? No. All our questions about her in the beginning were just like normal baby stuff, like reflux and I suppose because we were kind of new to the sterilizing bottles, it was more like that day-to-day stuff, which I just loved it when they phoned, and I was like, nothing to report, she's great. She was more sleepy than Nathan was, so she wasn't as alert. She didn't spend as much time looking at us. But whenever she did, everyone was like around her, oh, look, she's alert. Let's get the camera out and let's all look at her and talk to her. And it was just about making the most of those moments when we had them.
That is just, that's so lovely. It's so beautiful. And I'm so glad that that you have agreed to just share your journey and Hannah with us and our listening audience. I do want to ask you, we try to end every episode with just a message of hope. This is a special edition Mother's Day episode. So, what message of hope would you give a mom, whether it's a trisomy 18 journey, whether it's a different journey, just a message of hope for moms. Times have been really, really difficult for a lot of families. And I think, for a lot of folks, all we have is our hope. So what piece of encouragement or hope would you leave to our listeners today?
I think I'd probably say very simply, you're not alone. I remember one of the midwives saying that to me at one of the first appointments. She just said, this is a very busy unit, this fetal medicine department. There's a lot of people coming into this for appointments for a lot of different reasons every day. It does feel very isolating to get a diagnosis like this, but you're not alone. And we did find that really did help when we found Soft UK and heard other people's stories, and you realize it's not as rare as the numbers may show, or as the numbers sound when you hear all these personal stories. Just to say, try and find those people, those communities, and just feel like you're part of something, and there's other people to draw strength from and learn from and share with, really.
Yeah, that's really good. You are not alone. That's it. You are not alone. So to anyone out here listening, whatever you may be going through today, tomorrow, if you're still holding on to something from yesterday, you are not alone. You are not alone. So thank you so much, Kate, for being a part of today's episode. This will be uploaded to our Being Rare audio podcast, but we are so excited to announce that this is our very first video podcast. So we are so excited for Kate to help us launch our video podcast series. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. We appreciate you so much. We see you and you are not alone. Thank you, Kate, again for being with us to share you and Hannah and Colin and Nathan, just your family and all the love that you all have for each other. We really, really appreciate you being here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Sarita. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, guys, till the next episode. Be rare. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please share it with others, post it on social media, or leave us a comment or review. Stay up to date on current conversations by subscribing to Being Rare wherever you listen to your podcast. Connect with us on social media at Sarita Edwards at the Being Rare Podcast. Until the next episode, be rare.